Hey there movie lovers, welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're going back and taking aim at the James Bond film that changed the franchise forever, the 1964 classic Goldfinger. From the unforgettable Aston Martin and Shirley Bassey's legendary theme song, this is the film that truly launched Bond into global superstardom. But behind all the glamour, gadgets and gold lies a treasure trove of fascinating behind-the-scenes stories. So grab a vodka martini, shaken not stirred of course, and let's uncover 20 things you never knew about Goldfinger. Published in 1959, Goldfinger was the 7th novel in Ian Fleming's James Bond series. The idea for the story came from a chance encounter 3 years earlier, while Fleming was staying at Enton Hall, then an English health spa. There he struck up a conversation with a broker who specialised in gold. After learning more about the gold trade, Fleming found the inspiration that would grow into Goldfinger. He took the name Goldfinger from Hungarian-born modernist architect Erno Goldfinger, whom he strongly disliked. Erno Goldfinger was outraged by the use of his name and consulted lawyers about suing for libel. To avoid legal action, Fleming's publishers agreed to pay the architect's legal fees and even joked that the character could be renamed Goldprick if the dispute continued. By the time Goldfinger entered production, Sean Connery was growing weary of playing James Bond. The demanding schedule of making one Bond film every year left him exhausted and forced him to turn down other roles, making it difficult to prove himself beyond 007. Connery was also unconvinced by Goldfinger's script, feeling it was too humorous and occasionally far-fetched. Director Guy Hamilton shared some of those concerns, describing the original draft as too American. Screenwriter Paul Dane was brought in to revise it alongside Richard Maybaum, although much of the lighter tone remained. Bond's Aston Martin DB5 was actually two different cars. The gadget car wasn't a DB5, but an Aston Martin DB4 Vantage prototype used during the development of the DB5, while a standard production DB5 was supplied for close-up shots. Despite Aston Martin's initial reluctance to let the production alter its valuable prototype, production designer Ken Adam and special effects supervisor John Steers persuaded the company to lend them the car. Steers' first task was to cut a hole in the roof to accommodate the famous ejector seat, something he later admitted was difficult to do to such a beautiful vehicle. Although the ejector seat remains one of the film's most famous moments, it was never fully functional. The effect was achieved using a dummy launched by compressed air, with careful editing creating the illusion that a real person had been fired from the car. Working machine gun effects were created using air guns hidden behind the front indicators, while the oil slick system used a hose connected to a tank in the boot. Because there was not enough room for both, the oil tank had to be removed whenever scenes required the retractable bulletproof rear shield. Guy Hamilton also contributed the idea for the rotating number plate, inspired by his own frustration at receiving parking tickets in London. One of the DB5s sold to a private collector for $250,000 in 1986, while the other was bought by an American collector for $4 million in 2010. The first car was stolen from a hangar at an airport in Florida in June 1997 after thieves disabled the security system. Despite years of investigations, the famous Bond car has never been recovered, but it is believed that the car is in a private setting somewhere in the Middle East. The filmmakers were denied access to the real Fort Knox, but Broccoli got permission to film in the area with the help of his friend, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Russon. Hamilton said that to shoot Pussy Galore's flying circus gassing the soldiers, the pilots were only allowed to fly above 3,000 feet, but that was hopeless, so they flew at about 500 feet, which drove the military crazy. Cubby Broccoli wanted the interior to resemble a cathedral of gold, resulting in a spectacular but structurally impossible design filled with towering stacks of gold bars. After the film's release, the controller of Fort Knox congratulated production designer Ken Adam on his work, and Eon donated the model of the depository for permanent display at the real Fort Knox. Many American fans believed the film had actually been shot inside the heavily guarded facility, and Eon received letters from Americans expressing their frustration that a British film was allowed to shoot inside Fort Knox. For the exterior shots, well, they were filmed from a nearby military base, while a small group of American soldiers repeatedly played the collapsing guards during Pussy Galore's nerve gas attack. The film made several changes to Fleming's novel. In the book, Goldfinger plans to steal the gold from Fort Knox, but the filmmakers realised transporting it would be impractical. Instead, the film has Goldfinger detonate a dirty bomb to irradiate the gold, making his own reserves far more valuable. Another change came during the golf match. In the novel, Goldfinger's caddy stands on the golf ball to help him cheat, but in the film, Bond secretly switches the ball instead, giving him a cheekier edge. Director Guy Hamilton brought a lighter, more adventurous tone to the series, believing Bond risked becoming too invincible. Goldfinger also introduced several franchise firsts. It was the first Bond film to feature a true pre-title mission unrelated to the main plot, the first to open with a title song performed by a major recording star, and the first to place greater emphasis on Bond's entertaining relationship with Gadget Master Q. Goldfinger's laser torture scene was created using a combination of practical and optical effects. Although the production obtained a real industrial laser, its beam was invisible under the studio lights, so the table was pre-cut and repaired with solder before filming. Hidden beneath it, two technicians used a light and a cutting torch to simulate the laser slicing through the metal, while the beam itself was added later using optical effects. The sequence felt especially tense for Sean Connery, who was lying only inches above the cutting torch. His visible sweat during the scene was genuine, as he had to trust that the crew beneath the table would stop at exactly the right moment. One of Goldfinger's most memorable images is Shirley Eaton as Jill Masterson, covered entirely in gold paint after being murdered by Goldfinger's henchmen. To create the effect, Eaton was painted gold while a doctor remained on set as a precaution. The striking scene gave rise to the long-running myth that Eaton had actually died during filming. In reality, she continued acting throughout the 1960s and later wrote several books, including Golden Girl. Jill Masterson's death from skin suffocation has no scientific basis. Human skin plays virtually no role in breathing, making the cause of death completely fictional. The myth was even tested on Mythbusters, with Adam Savage showing no harmful effects, reinforcing that being covered in paint would not cause suffocation. Ian Fleming is believed to have taken the idea for Jill Masterson's death from the 1946 horror film Bedlam. The name Pussy Galore caused repeated problems with both British and American censors. In the original script, Bond's first meeting with the character included an even more suggestive exchange. "Who are you?" "Pussy Galore." "I know, but what's your name?" British censors considered the dialogue too risque, so it was rewritten. Bond's response became the much tamer, "I must be dreaming." Screenwriter Richard Maybaum later believed the only reason the character's name survived at all was because it came directly from Ian Fleming's original novel. The film also faced objections from American censors who threatened to ban Goldfinger unless the character's name was changed. Producer Cubby Broccoli overcame the issue by showing them a British newspaper featuring Honor Blackman alongside Prince Philip under the headline, "The Prince and the Pussy." Convinced the word was being used publicly without offence, the censors allowed the name to remain, preserving one of the most memorable character names in Bond history. Guy Hamilton cast Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore without considering anyone else, thanks to her success in The Avengers and her judo experience. For Odd Job, Hamilton chose former Olympic weightlifter and professional wrestler Harold Sakata after seeing him on television. Tanya Mallet, cousin of Dame Helen Mirren, was cast as Tilly Masterson after Cubby Broccoli saw a photograph of her in a bikini. She later criticised the restrictive conditions on set and the relatively low pay, retiring from acting soon afterwards, apart from a brief uncredited appearance in The New Avengers. Shirley Ann Field, Joan Collins and Wanda Ventham were all considered for Jill Masterson before Shirley Eaton accepted the role. Most of Eaton's dialogue was dubbed by voiceover regular Nikki van der Zyl, with only her whispered line to Bond remaining her own voice. Jack Lord was invited to return as CIA agent Felix Leiter, but after seeking a higher salary, more screen time, and equal billing with Sean Connery, they were unable to reach an agreement. The producers then recast the role. Canadian actor Austin Willis was originally hired as Leiter, but shortly before filming he swapped roles with Polish-born Canadian actor Cease Linder, who had been cast as Goldfinger's gin rummy opponent Mr. Simmons. As a result, Linder became the second actor to portray Felix Leiter on screen. After stopping Operation Grand Slam, Bond states that Goldfinger was only 3 seconds away from success. Originally, the bomb's countdown clock stopped at 003, as a nod to Goldfinger being the third official Bond film. Producer Harry Saltzman, however, had it changed to stop at 007. But Bond's line of 3 more ticks creates a continuity error, because Sean Connery was unavailable to re-record the dialogue during post-production, as he was on holiday in Rome with his wife. Sean Connery injured his back during the fight with Oddjob inside Fort Knox, delaying production. Some have claimed he later used the injury as leverage to negotiate a better contract for the next Bond film. Ford agreed to supply a Lincoln Continental for filming, despite knowing it would be crushed on screen, on the condition that several of its other vehicles also appeared in the film. As a result, Goldfinger showcased several Ford models, including the then unreleased 1965 Ford Mustang driven by Tilly Masterson, marking the car's first appearance in a major motion picture. Goldfinger transformed James Bond into a worldwide phenomenon. After becoming the fastest earning film in UK box office history at the time, it was a huge success in North America, where it earned more than $50 million. The film also sparked Bond mania. Thousands of fans overwhelmed the London premiere, while at the Paris premiere, Sean Connery was stunned when a female fan jumped into the Aston Martin he was driving. From that point on, James Bond became a global pop culture sensation. Ian Fleming visited the Goldfinger set during filming in the spring of 1964, watching Sean Connery shoot the Miami hotel scenes at Pinewood Studios. Sadly, though, he died of a heart attack on the 12th of August 1964 at the age of 56, just weeks before the film's UK premiere. The original UK release ended with the message, "James Bond will return in On Her Majesty's Secret Service." However, by the time Goldfinger was released in the US, the producers had decided to make Thunderball first, so the end credits were changed accordingly. The film was banned in Israel for several months after Goldfinger actor Gert Frobe revealed that he had been a member of the Nazi Party. The ban was lifted when a Jewish family came forward to say that Frobe had protected them from Nazi persecution during the Second World War. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Goldfinger. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.